Hamaguchi's been out. He's talking more of that good shit. And he talked a bit more about FF7 Revelation. And he talked about something that has been on my mind, and it's been on a few of our minds since the end of Rebirth. And that in regards exploration. One of the big things and one of the big critiques that I think a lot of us had at the end of Rebirth was the amount of things to do basically being listed out for us in a checklist format. It's one of those things that it makes sense, right? And it's like when you would think about it from a design perspective, you're like, yes, I want to show people where there are things that are to do in my game so they can see all the cool stuff that we put in here, right? And inherently you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we should be able to just see and go to it and do it. But it actually sort of, when you actually experience it, you start to see the problem. When you have something that is told to you to show you exactly what it is that you need to do in order to like get a bunch of extra rewards and stories and stuff, it can start to become overwhelming as you move from plot point to plot point, and every new area has a holy boatload of things for you to do, and that you know are there for you to do because you have a giant checklist of things and icons on your map and everything telling you exactly where to go and what to do if you want to see it. And if you don't do it, you feel like you're missing out on potentially some really good rewards. But at a certain point, sometimes you just start to kind of like, what we essentially happened with us. Everyone who got to the Gingaga area of Rebirth, we all collectively went, oh my God, holy shit, wow. We all kind of felt the same simultaneous burnout in that same moment. It's usually Gingaga. Either Corel or Gingaga is where that shit really kicks in. Where we're just like, hooey, wow, all right. Oh man, I think, maybe I'm going to hold off on doing these things right now. It's a lot. And it sort of makes you realize why games like From Software and the Souls stuff, as well as Elden Ring in particular, does such an amazing job with exploration. There actually is something magical about having a thing exist in the game and you having no idea that it's there until you find it. It's basically the idea of discovery, right? You're not told ahead of time that this thing exists, that it is there for you to go and get should you choose to. You just find it naturally. And you know what, actually, another game that does that really well was the original FF7. The original FF7 also did that really well. When you got to the point where you could start exploring the whole world, right? You get access to the tiny Bronco, you can start going around the rivers. When you get access to a submarine, when you get access to the Highwind, and you can suddenly just go almost anywhere. You're not actually being told that these places exist or that these objectives and things are out there for you to find. You just go out there and find them. And it's led to this magical thing, right? Where, dude, every time I go back to FF7 OG, I discover something new that I didn't know existed, but was there the whole time. I think that is something that is valuable. The idea of finding something that no one else did, or them finding something that you didn't find, is a surprisingly valuable commodity in gaming. I'm not saying that the actual inherent discovery, the inherent side content of FF7 Rebirth was bad. No, it was actually all very high quality. But how you found those things, how you came across those things, that was sort of the issue. And it was something that I think a lot of us hoped would be altered in FF7 Revelation. So Hamaguchi sort of discussed that, and it seems like they might be taking that to heart. Kinda. Sorta. It's a little up there. So anyway, let me talk about this a bit, because I think this is sort of worth discussing. So this is from Eurogamer. The big Final Fantasy VII Revelation interview. Director Hamaguchi entering Rebirth's perfect combat, avoiding stale RPG systems, and rethinking fast travel for the sake of player agency. So I'm not gonna go through this whole article. Some of it's sort of like, it just talks about a little bit about the combat, how they feel like combat looks like. We sort of feel like we kind of peaked in Rebirth, but we added the new fist system to sort of help add some more variety to it. It's not just the same thing. They talk a bit about like, the making of this game, Vincent Valentine and his funny leap out of the plane or the Highwind. Yeah, goofy things like Red Riding the Chocobo and Rebirth and all these little goofy things that, that they decide to add. So It's this part right here. Hamaguchi is committed to player freedom and player choice. And you can see that even in the difference between Rebirth and Remake, where the latter is a tight funnel, shepherding you from one chapter to the next, whilst giving you a precious little room to breathe. Rebirth is practically the opposite. It revels in its spaciousness and is brimming with mini-games, to the degree that some players suggest that this actually damages the pace of the final product. With Revelation, Hamaguchi is committed to learning from experience and treading a line somewhere between the two. And the best way to do that, he thinks, is by giving the players as much choice as possible. There are a lot of open world games out in the world right now, and the idea of open world fatigue is a very important concept to me. He says that when asked about some of the feedback to Rebirth, it depends on personal preference and different perceptions, but for me personally, I know I've had the experience where I've been thrown out into an open world game and not known where to go, not known where to begin, and not known what to do. But at the same time, the concept of being thrown into this wondrous world where anything goes is amazing. But for me personally, as a creator, I think it's very important to offer proper guidance for the players in an open world games. It's important for players to know what to do, know where to go. In Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, we made sure to make it easy for players to understand how much content there is and how difficult the content is. That design philosophy is applied to Revelation. Players have all the guidance that they need. This is something that both myself and the development team were very careful about when we designed the game. So, this first part made me go, oh, so they're not changing things, actually. Sounds like they're going kind of by the same concept that they did before. But then they go down here where he says, to that end, the Highwind airship allows for total open world freedom in Revelation, letting you leap from the deck and parachute seamlessly into any location on the map. It's a smart system. Not only does it let Vincent have his emo moment en route to your next objective, but the descent hides loading screens and allows your party to navigate the continent without worrying about walls, barriers, oceans, cliffs, and so on, which I'm actually really curious about how, like, can I, like, land on a mountain? Like, what happens if I land in intraversable terrain? Will it, like, push me away? I'm actually really curious about some of that, how that'll function, but that aside. Fast travel split into two phases. Jumping from the Highwind and opening the parachute is the first sequence, and choosing where to land is the second. During the first phase, you can see visual markers on the ground that indicate major objectives, minigames, and so on. Once you're close to the ground, those visual cues disappear. After you open the parachute, you have to kind of rely on your memory to ensure that you're actually dropping into the place where you want to go, says Hamaguchi. That's another example of the guidance we're giving players without directing them too much. The world is even bigger than it was in Rebirth, so it is more important than ever for us to ensure that there's enough guidance here so people have no issues enjoying what this game has to offer. So that's something, I will say. The idea that you can't maybe see what those markers are when you're down on the ground, only when you're up in the sky. I don't know if that's going to be visible when you're pausing the game and you're looking at the map. But I do feel, at least just based on how he's talking about it here, this isn't quite going as far as I was hoping they would go. I really was kind of hoping they might just kind of throw it all to the wind here and make it so that objective markers were literally just not a thing anymore, right? Except for maybe your main story. I think a lot of this, again, we don't actually have this yet to see in front of us what this actually means. Of how is it truly implemented. And also, you know, there could always be potential translation issues and stuff about exactly what he's saying here. But to me, when he says, as a creator, I think it's very important to offer proper guidance for players in open world games. It's important for players to know what to do and know where to go. I agree. I think it is important. I think that's important for the main objective. And everything else, not as much. I think that is something that basically Elden Ring does this, right? Elden Ring alleviates this concept by having you at any moment basically see this big golden line, right? That just points you in pretty much the direction. If you just want to just ignore everything else, everything around you, you can just go straight to the next main story boss and go and fight the king of this castle and move on to the next major, like, area. Like, there's always that there in the background to guide you. There's no way you can essentially get completely like, I don't know where I'm supposed to do or where I'm supposed to go. And I think having something like that, or even just having an objective marker specifically for main stuff, is fine. But I do not feel that way about the side stuff. And to me, it still sounds like they aren't fully committed to the idea of us missing things, right? Of there being content in the game that is truly like, I just didn't find it. I'm not saying that they should have content in the game that is like, oh, it's locked out and you can never see it. I just mean, like, after a certain point in the game, I just mean that you don't come across it, right? Like, you just, it was out in the world. It was in a hidden cave or in this secret little nook somewhere that I just didn't find, right? That's the kind of stuff that I wanted to see more of in this game. Things that I truly feel like, oh man, I was just running around and I found this hole in the ground that I just slipped down and found, wow, there's like this whole area down here. What is this? Like, the idea of there just being something that people just aren't always going to see. And in the current version, in the Rebirth version, that is just like impossible. Like, it is literally impossible for you to have to miss out on anything the game has to offer. It's all listed out for you. They seem to be doing this a little bit by maybe taking away some of those markers once you get lower to the ground. Once you're down there, like, I have to find specifically where this thing is marked. But it doesn't sound like they're truly shifting their focus in a way that allows us to actually miss anything. And to me, I do think that's a little disappointing. I understand it, again, from a design mentality. The idea of creating content that people just can't find is hard for a developer to understand, right? Especially now that games take so much more time and effort to make than they did back then, back in the right? Back on the PS1 when this game came from, right? Where, yeah, maybe it's like, yeah, I'll make this little map area, just like this random cave where there's a dude that will give you a secret at this certain amount of fights, right? He'll just drop like this, and when you get the two numbers to match up, when you get a certain number of fights, you'll get him to say something like weird little like innocuous shit like that. We're like, what the fuck, this cryptic bullshit. But like, now everything has so much like production value, it's hard to sort of accept a game where players could potentially not see that, but they want to, but they can't see it because they just didn't come across it. Like, I have to see how this actually plays out, but just based on what he's saying, and even just like the idea of like, it's important for proper guidance in an open world game. I want to understand how much content there is and how difficult the content is. Like, this right here sort of screams to me that is just, I feel like we might be getting still that same potential problem we had of checklisting that we got in Rebirth, just in maybe a slightly different form, but it's still like going to be basically impossible to miss anything. And I really, really hope that isn't the case. I'm not saying they can't make up for it in other ways. They could definitely have, like, I guess, again, weird cryptic secrets that maybe the objective markers and things cannot explain to you. Like, what does he mean by this, right? What does, like, the number the guy is saying out loud from, like, the FF7 OG, what is he talking about? What is that referring to? I would still love stuff like that, but the idea of there actually being something truly missable may not actually be a thing to consider. And I just hope if this new system, right, is at least a bit less hand-holdy than it was before, I just hope that we don't get the feelings that we had in Rebirth at times, where between major objectives, between major story points, where we just feel like, oh my God, all right, I'm so over exploring the world, right? Like, all right, I think I've seen enough of this. I don't want to feel that sort of, that burnout, right? I want to feel like that I am actually uncovering it at my own pace and not like I'm missing out. I still have hope, because they did talk about how the world itself is going to have, there's going to seemingly be choices, right? And while they said there's not going to be multiple endings, things will play out differently depending on how you do things. And I think when he talks about that, what I think he means by that is choosing when in the story you actually do specific plot lines, right? Like maybe Yuffie's plot line in Wutai, or specific like things around Sid and space and things. Like, maybe some of this stuff isn't necessarily something that you have to do, right? It's actually something that is maybe optional, or has additional facets of it that are optional. And it's choosing when in the story, who is in your party at the time, when you decide to do it, that actually affects like how things and later cutscenes play out. It's like the same idea of Red 13 in Rebirth, right? He goes through a change that essentially alters how he talks, right? And you actually get a few quests in the game that involve Red 13. And he actually will speak differently depending on if you do some of those quests later than if you do them earlier. So like there's a quest pretty early on, I think it involves him in a bunch of like hunting for like a certain beast. And because you haven't actually gotten far enough in the story to see him talk his other way, you don't actually know it, but he actually starts speaking. He speaks in his wizened voice, right? His wizened voice. Apparently, if you do not do that one early, and since you wait way later until after you've gone through that arc, he'll actually speak in his more casual voice for that quest. I think it's something like that. That to me is what I think the choice, right? The idea of like doing that content before or after certain events. I think that's what that refers to. And I feel like in order for that to happen, there has to be at least some level of discoverability. Like, you know, otherwise people will just do all this shit before every major plot point or feel like they have to. So I'm hoping, I'm still holding out hope that this new system that they have in here will give us enough of a choice to feel like there isn't, that we're not missing things, right? Like, oh man, well, there's still all these other things that are out there, and not it's really such an interesting psychology of like just not having something told to you, even if it's there, right? Even if it's still out there. I swear to you, if we didn't have the list of objectives for everything in Rebirth just laid out for us at the start, nobody would be complaining about this whole burnout thing. Nobody would be. Because we would just be coming across it on our own. And then we'll eventually be like, all right, I think we're good. You know, I think maybe I've seen as much as there is to see, even if there is maybe still a few things out there. Like, that's the difference. That's the psychology of it. Sometimes it's better to just see that for yourself as opposed to actually being told that it's there. So anyway, I hope that we're at least given a little bit of a chance to, I don't know, discover the world on our own and not just follow markers on a map. Because I think that will just lead to overall a better paced experience for people and people not feeling like they have to see all the side content before every major plot point. And we have to basically exhaust ourselves by seeing, oh God, the whole world's changed again. Oh my God, a whole bunch of new markers. So we'll see. I can't really pass judgment on it until I've actually seen for myself what it is they're actually going to be implementing.